She handed me the suit with tears in her eyes, not knowing she just spent her rent money on a billionaire pretending to be homeless. In that moment, I fell completely, irreversibly in love.
Nathan Cross stood in the boardroom of Cross Enterprises, exhausted by another parade of potential matches. His assistant had just shown out the fifth woman that month, another Instagram model who'd researched his net worth before learning his name. "I'm done, Marcus," Nathan said, loosening his tie. "Every woman I meet sees dollar signs, not me." "Perhaps you're meeting the wrong women, sir," Marcus replied carefully. An idea struck Nathan, reckless and desperate. What if they didn't know? What if I could meet someone who had no idea who I was? "Sir, that's brilliant!" Nathan's mind raced. "I'll go undercover, live like an ordinary person, find someone who could love me for who I am, not what I have." 2 weeks later, Nathan stood outside a homeless shelter in clothes he'd bought from a thrift store, his hair deliberately unkempt, designer stubble grown out. He'd rented a tiny apartment in a rough neighborhood, gotten a fake ID as Nate Collins, and taken a minimum wage job at Joe's Diner. The diner was everything his life wasn't: loud, chaotic, real. His coworker Sophie showed him the ropes, laughing at his clumsiness with coffee pots. "You act like you've never worked a day in your life, Nate." If only she knew. Sophie was beautiful, in a way that had nothing to do with designer clothes or professional makeup. Her uniform was worn, her sneakers had holes, but her smile could light up the dingy diner. She worked double shifts, he learned, supporting his sick mother. "Are you new to the city?" she asked during their break, sharing her modest lunch. "Just trying to start over," Nathan said, which wasn't entirely a lie. "I get that," softly. "Sometimes we all need a fresh beginning." Nathan watched her return to work, and something shifted in his chest. He'd come looking for authenticity. He hadn't expected to find her. 3 months passed. Nathan, now fully inhabiting his role as Nate, found himself genuinely struggling. Minimum wage was brutal. He understood now why Sophie skipped meals, why she wore the same 3 outfits, why she walked 2 miles to save bus fare. "Job interview next week," Nathan told her one evening as they closed the diner. "Office position. Could change everything." Sophie's face lit up. "Nate, that's amazing. You'll do great." "I don't have a suit," he admitted. This was true. His designer suits were locked in storage, and Nate Collins couldn't afford one. Sophie's expression shifted to determination. "What day is the interview?" "Friday." She nodded, something calculating in her eyes. The next few days, Sophie picked up extra shifts, worked through her lunch breaks. Nathan noticed but didn't understand until Thursday night. "Close your eyes," Sophie said, pulling a garment bag from her locker. "I got you something." Inside was a suit. Not expensive, but clean, professional, perfectly acceptable for an interview. Nathan stared at it, his throat tight. "Sophie, you can't... This must have cost $300, she said, smiling through obvious exhaustion. "I've been saving, and I wanted you to have it." Nathan's hands shook as he held the suit. He knew exactly what $300 meant to her. It was her rent, her grocery money, everything. "I can't accept this," he whispered, but Sophie pressed it into his arms. "You can and you will, because you deserve good things, Nate. You work hard, you're kind. You helped me when my mom was sick. Someone should believe in you the way you've believed in me." Nathan pulled her into a hug to hide his face. She'd spent her last cent on him, on a lie. The guilt threatened to crush him, but beneath it was something else, something terrifying and wonderful. He was in love with her. Nathan couldn't do it anymore. The lie felt like poison now, especially holding the suit she'd sacrificed everything to buy. That night, he invited Sophie to his tiny apartment, his hands shaking as he made cheap coffee. I need to tell you something, he began. The job interview isn't real. Sophie's smile faded. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not who you think I am. Nathan pulled out his real wallet, his real ID, his real life documented in credit cards and credentials. My name is Nathan Cross. I'm the CEO of Cross Enterprises. I'm worth $2.3 billion. The color drained from Sophie's face. That's not funny. I'm not joking. He pulled up his company website on his phone, showing her his professional photo. I was tired of women who only wanted my money, so I pretended to be poor. I wanted to find someone real. Sophie stood abruptly, the coffee cup clattering to the floor. You've been lying to me for 3 months? Yes, but Sophie, everything between us was real. Real? Her voice cracked. I spent my rent money on a suit for a billionaire. I shared my food with you when you probably have Michelin star chefs. I cried on your shoulder about being poor while you were slumming it for fun. It wasn't like that. Get away from me. Sophie grabbed her purse, tears streaming. I trusted you. I thought you understood what it was like to struggle. But this was just a game to you. We were just a game. Sophie, please. She slammed the door and Nathan stood alone in his fake apartment, holding the suit that represented everything he'd destroyed. He'd wanted to find genuine love. Instead, he'd broken the heart of the only woman who'd ever truly seen him. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd been searching for someone who could love him without his money. She had, and his money, the lie about it, had ruined everything.
Sophie didn't come to work the next day, or the next. Nathan learned from Joe that she'd called in sick, but when he went to her apartment, her neighbors said she'd been evicted. Couldn't make rent, the woman explained. Saw her crying as she packed. Said something about trusting the wrong person. Nathan's guilt transformed into desperation. He had Marcus track her down. She was staying at the women's shelter where Nathan had started his experiment. The bitter poetry of it made him sick. He waited outside the shelter until she emerged, her eyes red-rimmed, her clothes wrinkled. When she saw him, she turned to walk away. Please, Nathan called. Just let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You lied. You used me for some social experiment. You got what you wanted. Proof that someone could care about poor Nate. Congratulations. Her voice was hollow. I fell in love with you, Nathan said desperately. Sophie laughed, the sound broken. You fell in love with the idea of me, the poor girl with a heart of gold who made you feel like a good person. She finally looked at him, and the pain in her eyes gutted him. You want to know the worst part? It's not that you're rich. It's that you thought so little of me that you couldn't trust me with the truth. You're right, Nathan admitted. I was a coward. I was so obsessed with finding someone who couldn't be corrupted by money that I corrupted everything we had with lies. I need to go, Sophie said quietly. I have to find a new job, a new place to live. I have to figure out how to pay for my mother's medications. You know, real problems that you were just pretending to have. She walked away, and Nathan didn't follow. But as she disappeared into the crowd, he made a decision. If he couldn't have her love, he could at least fix what he'd broken. Sophie found an envelope slipped under her shelter cot that night. Inside was $3,000 in cash and a note in handwriting she recognized. This isn't charity. This is what you lost because of my lie. Your rent, your security deposit for a new place, your mother's medication costs. I calculated everything you sacrificed. Please take it.
You earned it by being kinder than I deserved. N. Sophie stared at the money, tears falling. She should throw it back in his face. She should refuse. But her mother needed medication. She needed a place to live. Pride couldn't keep her in a shelter. She used the money, hating herself a little for it, found a small apartment, paid her mother's medical bills, bought groceries without counting every cent, and tried to forget Nathan Cross existed. But he didn't let her forget, not in the way she expected. Sophie started noticing changes at Joe's diner. New equipment appeared. Wages increased across the board. Joe was baffled. Some anonymous donor, he said, gave enough to upgrade everything and double everyone's pay. At the free clinic where Sophie took her mother, suddenly all her mom's medications were covered. New pharmaceutical donation program, the nurse explained, started last week. The women's shelter got a massive grant. The food bank Sophie volunteered at received a truckload of supplies. Every place Sophie touched seemed to bloom with resources. She wasn't stupid. She knew who was behind it. Marcus appeared at the diner one afternoon, impeccably dressed and obviously uncomfortable. Miss Sophie, Mr. Cross would like you to know that he's established a foundation in your mother's name. All funding is anonymous, no strings attached. He doesn't expect to see you or hear from you. He just wanted to honor what you taught him about kindness. What did I teach him? Sophie asked bitterly. That some people give even when they have nothing. He's trying to do the same.
2 months passed. Sophie's life stabilized in ways she'd never imagined. Her mother's health improved with consistent treatment. Work was less crushing with better wages. She even had savings. But at night, she dreamed of Nate. Not Nathan the billionaire. Nate, who'd made her laugh during brutal shifts. Nate, who'd walked her home in the rain. Nate, who'd held her when she cried about her mother. Had that person been real or just a performance? Her mother, sharp as ever despite her illness, finally asked the question Sophie had been avoiding. This man who lied to you, did he lie about his feelings? I don't know, Mama. You do know. You're just afraid to admit it. Her mother held her hand. Baby, he spent 3 months living in poverty when he didn't have to. He worked minimum wage. He ate ramen. People don't do that for fun. They do that because they're searching for something. He used me. He fell in love with you, her mother corrected. And yes, he lied about who he was. But think about why. In his world, people probably lie to him every day, pretending to care when they want his money. He wanted to know if anyone could love him without it. That's not evil, honey. That's just sad. Sophie wiped her eyes. I broke my trust. And he spent 2 months trying to earn it back without asking for anything in return. That suit you bought him, he's never even worn it. Marcus told me it's hanging in his office as a reminder of what real kindness looks like. Marcus talks to you? Her mother smiled. He brings my medications personally. Sweet man. Tells me about his boss who can't eat, can't sleep, just works constantly and stares at a photograph of a woman at a diner. Sophie's heart clenched. Mama, I'm scared. Love is scary, baby, especially when it's real. Sophie stood outside Cross Enterprises for 20 minutes before gathering courage to enter. The lobby alone was intimidating, all glass and marble and expensive art. She felt small in her thrift store dress. Can I help you? The receptionist asked with barely concealed disdain. I'm here to see Nathan Cross. Do you have an appointment? No, but Mr. Cross doesn't see anyone without an appointment. The woman's tone suggested Sophie should leave. Tell him Sophie from Joe's Diner's here.
Sophie lifted her chin. He'll see me. The receptionist made a call, her expression shifting from dismissive to shocked. Mr. Cross says to send you up immediately, 47th floor. The elevator ride felt endless. Sophie's reflection stared back at her, nervous, uncertain, but determined. The doors opened to reveal Marcus, who smiled warmly. Miss Sophie, he's been hoping you'd come. Has he? Every single day. Marcus led her to massive double doors. He's different now. Sadder, but maybe better. You changed him. Nathan's office was enormous, overlooking the city, and there he was, standing by the window in jeans and a simple shirt, looking nothing like the CEO she'd imagined. When he turned and saw her, his expression crumbled with hope and fear. Sophie, he breathed. Hi, Nate. Or is it Nathan now? It's whoever you need me to be. He stayed by the window, as if afraid to approach. You're here. You're actually here. My mother says I'm an idiot for staying away so long. Sophie stepped into the office. She says you've been miserable. I have been. Sophie, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. You don't. She agreed and watched him flinch. But I'm willing to consider it, on one condition. Anything. No more lies, ever, about anything, even if the truth is hard or makes you vulnerable. If we do this, we do it honestly. Nathan nodded, his eyes bright. I promise, complete honesty, starting now. I'm in love with you. Desperately, completely, it's consumed me for months. They started over slowly. Nathan took her on dates that were sometimes extravagant. Private restaurant bookings, helicopter rides, and sometimes simple, like the diner where they'd met. Sophie learned about his world, the pressure, the isolation, the constant calculation of who wanted him versus who wanted his money. I grew up with nothing, Nathan told her one evening on his penthouse balcony. My dad built this company from scratch, taught me that money was everything, that people without it were lesser. I believed him until I lived without it, until I met you. I don't want you to feel guilty for being wealthy, Sophie said carefully. I want you to use it to do good, like you have been. The foundation? Nathan smiled. That's not charity, Sophie. That's investment. I've been putting money into communities like yours, creating jobs, supporting small businesses, not because I pity people, but because I finally understand what struggle teaches: resilience, compassion, connection. Sophie touched his face. Who are you really? Strip away the money, the company, the name. Who's Nathan Cross? I'm a man who reads philosophy books he doesn't fully understand, who plays piano badly but loves it anyway, who wants a family someday, kids who'll never know the loneliness I did. His voice dropped. I'm someone who found the love of his life while pretending to be poor, and who'd give up every cent to keep her. You won't have to, Sophie whispered, pulling him close, because I love you, both sides of you, Nate and Nathan, the man who worked at the diner and the one who owns the building it's in. They kissed as the city lights glittered below, two people from different worlds building a bridge between them. That night, they made love for the first time, not in his luxurious bedroom, but on the balcony, under the stars, wrapped in blankets, equal and honest, and wholly themselves. 3 months into their relationship, Nathan's father arrived. Richard Cross was everything Nathan had described: cold, calculating, built from steel and ambition. He took one look at Sophie and saw exactly what she feared he would: a poor girl after his son's fortune. I've had you investigated, Richard said bluntly during a tense dinner at Nathan's penthouse.
poverty-stricken background, sick mother, minimum wage work history. You're a liability. Dad, Nathan warned. She's gold-digging, son. At least be smart enough to get a prenup. Sophie stood, her hands shaking but her voice steady. Mr. Cross, I loved your son when I thought he was as poor as me. I bought him a suit with my last $300. I didn't know he was rich, and I didn't care. But you're right about one thing. I am a liability, because I won't let him become like you. Richard's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? You taught him that money was everything, that people without it were worthless. He had to pretend to be poor just to find out if anyone could love him. That's not wealth, Mr. Cross. That's poverty of the worst kind. Sophie grabbed her purse. Nathan, I'll be downstairs. After she left, Nathan faced his father. That woman is the best thing that ever happened to me. You have a choice. Accept her or lose me. You'd choose her over your family, your company? I'd choose her over everything, Nathan said simply. Because she chose me when I had nothing. That's worth more than all your billions. Richard left without another word. Nathan found Sophie in the lobby crying. I'm sorry, she said. I shouldn't have spoken to your father that way. You were perfect, Nathan said, holding her. You were absolutely perfect. And he'll come around or he won't. Either way, you're my family now. 1 year later, Sophie stood in Nathan's office, their office now. She'd taken a position at Cross Enterprises, heading their new community investment division. Not because Nathan gave her the job, but because she'd earned it, implementing programs that helped people like she used to be. The downtown development project broke ground today, she told Nathan, reviewing reports. 50 new jobs, affordable housing, medical clinic, just like we planned. Nathan pulled her away from the desk, wrapping his arms around her waist. You know what today is? Tuesday? It's exactly 2 years since you bought me that suit. He turned her to face the wall, where framed and preserved hung the suit she'd sacrificed everything to give him. Beside it was a photograph of them at Joe's diner, laughing during their shift. Best gift I ever received, not because of what it was, but because of what it meant. What did it mean? Sophie asked, though she knew. That someone believed in me when I had nothing to offer but myself. Nathan dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring box. Sophie, you gave me that gift when I was Nate. Now I'm asking if you'll give it to me as Nathan. Will you marry me? Sophie laughed through tears. Yes, to Nate and Nathan and whoever you'll be tomorrow. The wedding was small, at the diner where they'd met. Joe officiated. Marcus cried. Even Richard showed up, grudgingly admitting Sophie had made his son into someone he was proud of. As they danced in the tiny space where Nathan had once mopped floors, Sophie whispered, No regrets about pretending to be poor? Only one, that I didn't tell you the truth sooner. But Sophie, being poor taught me what real wealth is. It's this, it's you. Everything else is just numbers. And in that moment, they were both richer than they'd ever imagined. And that's how Nathan learned that you can't find real love by hiding who you are. You find it by being brave enough to be yourself, flaws and all. Sophie taught him that the greatest wealth is being loved for who you are, not what you have. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe for more emotional romance stories that will restore your faith in true love. Drop a bag in the comments if you're Team Nathan, or a heart if you're Team Sophie. Would you forgive someone who lied about being rich? Let me know below. See you in the next story.